All right, let's dive into something a little different today. A system that kind of flips the script on how we usually think about setting goals. We're calling this deep dive the 12-week year.
Definitely not your typical new year, new you kind of approach.
No, not at all. We're going deep into the book by Brian P. Moran and Michael Lennington.
It really challenges you to rethink how you plan and execute, and I think a lot of us can relate to that feeling of setting these big, ambitious goals.
Oh, absolutely. Those New Year's resolutions.
Exactly. And then by February, they've totally fizzled out.
Poof, gone. This system, though, seems to tackle that head on. And one of the first things that struck me was it kind of feels like the whole traditional yearly cycle almost sets us up for failure in a way.
It does, doesn't it? You get that sense of, I've got tons of time.
Like a whole year.
So much time.
But maybe our brains just aren't wired to work that way.
The 12-week year definitely suggests that. There's a really cool analogy they use from the world of athletics.
Oh, tell me about this.
Periodization. So, athletes don't just train randomly all year round.
Right, they have different phases.
Exactly. They break things down into these really focused cycles. You target specific areas for improvement.
So instead of this year-long marathon, it's like a series of sprints.
Exactly. Bringing that same intensity and focus of a short-term deadline to every single 12-week period.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture. But I'm curious, is ditching the annual plan completely a little extreme? Don't we still need some kind of long-term vision to guide us?
We do. But the book argues those long, drawn-out plans often backfire. They become overwhelming, and you can even get this false sense of security.
Like, oh, I've got time.
Yeah, like we were saying, forever to get things done. I don't know if you remember that anecdote they shared about the insurance company's top producer.
Oh, yeah, the one where everybody wanted his secrets, but nobody could replicate his success.
Exactly. He was completely open, willing to share all his knowledge, but it wasn't a knowledge gap holding people back.
It was execution.
Totally. And that's what this book is all about. Bridging that gap between knowing and doing.
So how do we actually go from these big annual goals to these 12-week cycles? Where do we even begin?
The 12-week year puts a lot of emphasis on connecting emotionally to your goals. It's not just setting generic objectives. It's about having a compelling vision for the future.
So having a why that goes beyond just checking boxes.
Exactly. A vision that truly motivates you. And they even offer this great exercise to help you define that vision.
Well, I love a good exercise.
Right. So imagine yourself 5 years from now.
Okay, 5 years from now.
What are you doing? Who are you with? What does your typical day even look like?
So get really specific.
Super specific.
Yeah.
And what happens is, by visualizing those details, you start activating your prefrontal cortex.
Okay, the brain science part. I love it.
That's the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, all that good stuff.
So it's almost like you're training your brain to act in alignment with your vision just by imagining it vividly.
Exactly. And the more emotionally compelling that vision is, the more likely you are to push through those uncomfortable moments and actually stick with your plan.
Well, it's true. We are wired to seek comfort and avoid discomfort.
Right.
Speaks to my procrastination habits for sure.
Right. So if we're not creating these big annual plans, how do we actually plan for these 12-week cycles?
Right. Do we just wing it?
The 12-week year actually has a very structured approach to planning.
Oh, good. Because I like a little structure.
It's about setting those clear, measurable goals for each cycle and then breaking those down into actionable steps.
Okay, so instead of one giant plan, it's like a series of mini plans, each with its own set of targets and milestones.
That's a great way to put it.
But then how do we make sure we stick to those plans?
Mm-hmm.
Life happens, things get in the way. How do we stay focused?
Absolutely. And that's where process control comes in. It's a huge emphasis in the 12-week year. It's not just setting the goals, but creating a framework for execution.
So walk me through that. What does that look like in practice?
One of the key tools they introduce is the weekly routine. It's this 3-step process.
Okay, let's break that down.
So first, you actually score your week, but not based on what you achieved, but on your execution of planned tasks.
Interesting. So it's not about hitting the goal, but sticking to the plan.
Exactly. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't get faster overnight.
Right. It's the consistency over time.
Exactly. So that weekly scorecard, it's like tracking your mileage. It tells you if you're on track even before you see the finish line.
I like that.
And the book suggests aiming for an 85% execution score each week.
85%? Whoa. That's ambitious.
It is. It takes a lot of discipline, but that's where the second step comes in. planning the week.
Okay, so how do we do that effectively?
It's about outlining the specific actions you need to take to achieve your goals for those 12 weeks, meticulously.
No more flying by the seat of our pants.
Nope. And then the third step is where the accountability magic happens.
Oh, tell me more.
It's called the weekly accountability meeting, a WHAM for short.
Accountability meetings. That sounds a little intimidating, honestly.
It's not meant to be. They stress that it's more about support, not judgment. They suggest forming a small group, people who are committed, and you meet weekly.
So what happens in these meetings? Do we just report on what we did or didn't do?
You share your execution score from the week before, you outline your plan for the coming week, discuss any obstacles that are coming up, and the book even has specific questions to help guide the conversation.
Oh, that's helpful. So it's more about problem solving and support, not just a progress report.
Right. And they share some really compelling examples. Remember the story about Leslie Lugenberg's team?
Oh, yeah, the one where they use the WHAMs to get rid of those unproductive tasks.
Exactly. Not only did they track their progress, but they used it to analyze their time and optimize their workflow.
Wow. So this system has a ripple effect. It's not just about hitting individual goals. It's about improving productivity overall.
Absolutely. And then they go even deeper into time management. This is where the idea of the ideal week comes in.
Okay, ideal week. This sounds intriguing.
So you literally map out your week on paper, blocking out time for your most important activities.
It's like that time blocking technique that's becoming really popular, but on a more strategic level.
Right. But the 12-week year actually takes it a step further by breaking your time down into strategic blocks, buffer blocks, and breakout blocks.
Okay, hold on. I got to write this down. Strategic, buffer, and breakout. What's the difference?
Strategic blocks, those are the chunks of uninterrupted time, ideally like 3 hours long, where you focus only on your most important tasks.
No distractions, just laser focus on the big stuff.
Right. And they recommend scheduling these early in the week and early in the day when your energy is high.
Makes sense. Minimize those interruptions. But what about all the other stuff that just pops up inevitably? Emails, phone calls, all that admin work. That can really derail your focus.
Totally. And that's where the buffer blocks come in. Shorter slots, maybe 30 minutes to an hour, where you handle those essential but less strategic tasks.
So it's like batching those tasks together so they don't fragment your day.
Exactly. And then last but not least, breakout blocks.
Breakout blocks. What are those for?
These are all about preventing burnout, stepping away from work.
Wait, so a productivity system that actually encourages taking breaks.
Absolutely. Working smarter, not harder, right? They recommend scheduling a 3-hour breakout block once a week, ideally after you've already implemented the other parts of the system.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Yes.
It's so refreshing to hear a system that values well-being.
And they give you really specific guidance on how to create your own ideal week. They really emphasize tailoring it to your specific work style, energy levels, and commitments. It's holistic.
I love that. We've covered so much ground already in just this first part.
I know, right? We talked about periodization, the importance of having that strong vision, the weekly routine, and even the ideal week.
But there's still so much more to uncover.
Exactly. Next time, we're going to delve into the book's perspective on accountability.
Ooh, that was a really interesting take. I can't wait to discuss that more. And we'll explore their concept of greatness in the moment.
Yes, such a powerful idea.
So stay tuned.
So, as we were talking about those 12-week cycles, it really got me thinking about another key principle from the 12-week year. Their approach to accountability.
Oh, yeah. That was definitely a different take than I was expecting.
It's not just about checking boxes or consequences or anything like that.
No, not at all.
They redefine it completely as ownership.
Ownership. Okay, now that's interesting. What do they mean by that?
It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose your actions.
Okay.
And ultimately, you're influencing your outcomes, no matter what challenges come your way. It's about not being a victim of circumstance,
Right.
but being the architect of your own reality.
I love that shift in perspective. So it's not blaming external factors. You're taking responsibility for your choices.
Exactly.
And their consequences. But wouldn't that feel really daunting to some people?
It might at first.
Like suddenly all the weight of the world is on their shoulders.
But the book really stresses that it's actually incredibly empowering.
Okay.
Instead of feeling helpless, you realize you actually have agency.
You have the power to make choices that shape your life. I like that. So it's not adding pressure, it's recognizing the power that we already have.
Exactly. And they share this really moving story that illustrates this concept
Oh, love their stories.
about a man named Mick White. He made, during one of the author's workshops, a seemingly simple commitment to call his mother every weekday.
Oh,
It was more than a sweet gesture, though. He kept that commitment religiously for almost 2 years, and sometimes it was inconvenient, sometimes he was tired or busy, but he made the time.
wow. So those calls became a lot more than just routine check-ins.
Absolutely. They really strengthened their bond, and then sadly his mother passed away unexpectedly.
Oh, no.
But because of his commitment, he had all these precious conversations, those moments of connection that he could cherish.
It's so powerful how those small, consistent actions can have such a big impact.
Yeah. And they break down those key elements of making and keeping those kinds of powerful commitments.
Okay, like what?
Having a burning desire, being really clear about the actions you need to take, acknowledging the costs involved, and most importantly, acting on those commitments even when your feelings tell you otherwise.
So don't wait for the motivation to strike.
Right. Align your actions with your values, regardless of how you're feeling.
Right.
Consistently show up. But it's not always easy.
No, it's not. There must be times when those old patterns, the procrastination, creeps back in.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that self-sabotage?
The book actually calls that productive tension.
Productive tension. Those two words don't seem like they go together.
I know, right? But think about that feeling you get when you know you're not doing what you should be doing, that discomfort. They say that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
It can be really motivating.
So instead of running from that feeling, we should lean into it.
Yeah. Use it as fuel.
Oh, I like that. That's a good reframe for that guilt and procrastination.
Right. So how do you go from recognizing it to taking action?
Yeah. How do we do that?
One of the most powerful things they talk about is resolving never to be the victim.
Yeah.
Recognizing that even when things happen that are out of your control, you still have the power to choose how you respond.
Like that Viktor Frankl quote, right? Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom.
Exactly. And they also emphasize stopping that negative self-talk.
Oh, yeah. We all have that.
That voice that's like, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this. Focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
Your actions, your effort.
Right. It's so easy to get caught in that self-criticism spiral.
It is. So surround yourself with supportive people.
People who believe in you.
And be willing to try different things. If you keep doing the same things and expecting different results, you're just going to stay stuck.
So be open to experimenting new approaches.
And it all comes back to that idea of accountability as ownership.
Being the CEO of your own life.
Exactly. But let's face it, we're all human.
Oh, yeah?
We make mistakes.
All the time.
How do we deal with those inevitable setbacks?
Yeah. And how do we stay motivated?
Learn from those mistakes.
Okay.
See failures as feedback.
Right.
Focus on progress, not perfection.
That growth mindset.
Exactly. Reframe those moments. So instead of asking, why me?
Right.
Ask, what can I learn from this?
Oh, I like that.
How can I do better next time? Don't beat yourself up.
Be kind to yourself.
Get back up, dust yourself off, and recommit to your vision.
This whole conversation has been so insightful. Really gets to the heart of creating change, living a fulfilling life.
And it leads into another great principle from the 12-week year, greatness in the moment.
Greatness in the moment. Tell me more.
They use the analogy of an Olympic athlete. They point out that an athlete doesn't become great when they win the gold medal.
Right.
They become great in all those moments leading up to it.
All those hours of training.
The sacrifices they made when no one was watching.
It's the small, consistent actions that create a foundation for big achievements.
Yes. And they suggest that applies to every area of life. Greatness isn't some far-off destination.
It's a choice.
It's a choice we make every moment.
So it's not about waiting for a big break. It's about consistently showing up.
Exactly. And the difference between greatness and mediocrity often comes down to those small choices that we make each day.
It's like the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yes. It's shifting your focus from the outcome to the process.
From the destination to the journey.
The 12-week year gives you that framework.
Reclaiming control of our time, aligning our actions with our vision, and showing up fully.
It's a powerful reminder. You have the power to create a life that truly lights you up. But how do we move from these inspiring ideas to actually putting them into practice? That's what we're going to explore next.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the 12-week year.
It's been quite a journey, right?
It really has. We've explored the limitations of those annual plans, the power of 12-week cycles, and accountability as ownership, such a powerful concept.
And that idea of achieving greatness in the moment.
Yes. But now I'm really curious about the practical side of things. How do we actually take all these amazing ideas and put them into action in our lives?
That's the question, right? And thankfully, the book doesn't leave us hanging. They have some great advice. One of the biggest things is start small.
Okay, so don't try to change everything at once.
Exactly. Don't overhaul your whole life overnight. Pick one area where you really want to see improvement.
One goal, and apply the 12-week year system to that.
Exactly. It could be anything. Boosting your productivity at work, improving your fitness, maybe strengthening a relationship, or even pursuing some passion project you've been putting off.
I love that it's adaptable to really any area where we're looking for more focus and achievement.
Absolutely. And they walk you through it step by step, setting that 12-week goal, creating an action plan, establishing that weekly routine. It's like your roadmap.
A roadmap for success.
Yeah.
I like that. And they even have some practical tools and templates, right?
They do. Downloadable versions of their weekly plan, the scorecard, all kinds of resources you can find on their website.
Perfect. So for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to start their own 12-week year journey, what are some of the key takeaways? What should they keep in mind?
First and foremost, remember that shift from annualized thinking to 12-week cycles. Like we were talking about, it's that periodization thing, bringing that year-end urgency and focus into every single 12-week period.
Yeah, those intense sprints.
Exactly. And then connect to that compelling vision for the future, one that really lights you up.
One that's more than just checking off a list, right?
Right. It's that deeper why that fuels you, keeps you going, even when things get challenging.
For sure.
And remember, the power of accountability as ownership. It's about recognizing that power to choose your actions and influence your outcomes, no matter what obstacles you face.
It's about being the CEO of your own life.
And don't forget about greatness in the moment. Those small choices, made consistently every day, those are what lead to those extraordinary results.
Showing up, even when it's hard, and trusting that those efforts will pay off over time.
This has been such a great discussion. The 12-week year really offers a transformative system for anyone looking for more focus, productivity, and fulfillment in their lives.
I totally agree. And as we wrap up our deep dive, what final words of wisdom would you offer to our listeners?
I would say don't get hung up on perfection. It's all about progress. Take action, learn from your experiences, and just keep refining your approach along the way.
Don't be afraid of those setbacks.
See them as opportunities to learn and keep moving forward, one 12-week cycle at a time.
Well said. And to everyone listening, if you're inspired, start small. Experiment. See what happens. And let us know how it goes.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about your experiences.
Until next time, keep striving for that greatness in every moment.
And remember, you have the power within you to create a life you truly love.